Taylor and Blake are friends again. So the only real reason would be to get the story out there.
Taylor and Blake Lively. Swift's unsettling romance has been disclosed, and believe me, it's not what, as one could anticipate behind all those photos. Perfect best friend posts are deceptive in some way. Darker.
She's my beautiful little monster. Sometimes I have to release these little monsters on the world.
What seemed to be the ideal friendship between two influential figures in Hollywood is swiftly becoming a network of legal drama, betrayal, and manipulation.
Like it's Taylor Swift. He feels there's an implicit threat here. Like, this is a dragon that can kill you. So be very careful. Here's my pet dragon.
What you've been observing. Instagram's birthday has been celebrated for years. Shares moments from the red carpet, that corresponding energy during Super Bowl games, everything appeared to be meticulously perfect. A carefully chosen image of female companionship.
She claims he sexual harassed her, and then by the time they premiered the movie, they weren't even speaking to each other. She made him stay in the basement, and Ryan Reynolds turned on him too. And then she claimed that he unleashed a bad PR campaign against her.
Taylor Swift and Blake Lively are the pop and Hollywood's dynamic duo, serving feelings of a comfortable girl boss and effortlessly selling two women's fantasies, assisting one another in a sector that eats away at connections such as gum.
Taylor felt that's kind of weird to say about a friend. It's weird to call a friend a dragon. And, Blake tried to say in her text message something like, these two are my dragons. They stand up for me when I can't stand for myself.
However, what if the reality behind that picture is more than simply it's all produced little off due to the fact that every pastel filter, something no one is noticing in the brunch photo, wishes to acknowledge that this friendship may have focused more on sisterhood than regarding strategy.
So we had a lot of question marks about why that was. And again, just her particular flavor and style.
According to insiders, this wasn't. It was an organic, ride-or-die friendship. Calculated, controlled, perhaps even militarized, and worst of all, we purchased it for about 10 years.
Also, it says here that the CRD didn't actually fact-check the complaints to see if it was actually true. They didn't look into anything. They didn't investigate anything.
Let's move on to the conclusion. With all of this chaos, it's not just a mess. Situation behind the scenes, it's 5 cases in the full-fledged legal war zone, circling back and forth as if it were a courtroom dodgeball competition.
On Blake Lively's claims that she was allegedly harassed by this guy when they shot the movie, It Ends With Us, a film about domestic violence.
Blake Lively filed a lawsuit for sexual harassment, Justin Baldoni, and reprisal.
Did they do that to their own daughter? Silent treatment, gaslighting, doing the golden child thing where one child, okay, I'm pushing off attention from that one child and putting it on another.
Next, Baldwin responds to a defamation lawsuit.
This is around the same time that he's making quotes that we have here saying that he's too big to fail at this point. And he just crushes his enemies and drinks their blood.
Next, Ryan Reynolds received street relations, then jumped after being dragged in. In addition, and precisely in the center of this, Taylor Swift's legal Hunger Games.
Blake Lively essentially threatened, you could say, Justin Baldoni, calling Taylor Swift and Ryan Reynolds her beautiful little dragon monsters that she sometimes has to use.
Due to Blake's sweetness, Blake, who is innocent, called Taylor one of her dragons in a confidential message disclosed in Baldwin's court records. It sounds strong, but it wasn't praise. It was more akin to using Taylor's standing as a human being around the world. According to legal experts, battering ram dragon wasn't particularly adorable in this situation. Metaphor Taylor's name was a tactic, was employed as if it were a loaded weapon.
Was because he was terrified of Taylor Swift. He was terrified of Taylor Swift. You don't want to go up against Taylor Swift when you are a guy, okay? Because she can ruin you. She can literally ruin you. She has these fans who hang on every single word that she sings.
And the real kicker is that Taylor had no hint she believed she was only there for a visit. No drama, just a casual hangout with her pal.
It says Taylor Swift is taking a step back from her friendship with Blake Lively after feeling like she was used.
And all of a sudden, that visit was permitted. Sources of information told News Nation and Page 6, Taylor was incensed about. She felt taken advantage of by not signing up for any of these.
As an intimidation tactic by the actress in a lawsuit that she never wanted to be embroiled in.
Because, despite how shocking it may seem, she didn't consent to serve as the primary witness in a lawsuit that she was unaware of. But wait for it to improve.
An insider told the Daily Mail. Her friends also think that Blake's "I'm Khaleesi and like her, I happen to have dragons" text to Justin was uncool and unnecessary.
It seems that this didn't happen once, according to several insiders. Claimed Blake's name had been letting Taylor go behind the scenes for months to put studios under pressure to sell the movie to influence choices.
As we know, she used her music. Taylor even played a part in auditioning Isabel Ferrer, as we know now.
It is said that Taylor's music assisted Raise It Ends With Us, and there were circulating suspicions that she might have participated in Isabel Ferrer's casting.
Announcing that her and Blake are taking a break. They're no longer friends because, shocking, Taylor Swift feels used. She always feels used.
Everything occurring without Taylor being aware that she was subtly evolving into the movies. Co-producer informally, but without the Taylor took a break from our paycheck so that we could. The plan of friendship is a good one.
Were definitely true. The lawyer said that Blake believed them to be true. And that is a legal way to avoid being accused of lying under oath.
Additionally, there are more. Recently, Chashai Flo, a YouTuber, dug, bringing up Blake's initial complaint via her attorney to the California Civil Department of Rights. And you know what? Blake didn't assert that these assertions were accurate, just that she thought they were that small. Perjury is avoided by her thanks to a legal loophole, because if these assertions proved to be weren't true, she might be staring at 5 years in a federal prison.
She didn't state this was true. She said she believed it to be true.
That's 5 years, which may help to explain why everything is suddenly being clarified by everyone, and use lenient legal terminology like as think it's real. Ryan Reynolds using the same tactic to defend his calling. Baldoni was a predator, yet it was made clear that simply his viewpoint. We're not attorneys, but even the backpedaling is visible from space.
But also the way she used Taylor to pressure Sony, I think, to get everything that she wanted.
Thus, here's what remains of us is a friendship that was never as pure as it appeared to be. Litigation in which Taylor Swift left devoted companion to unintentional chess piece A. PR machine frantically assembling the parts. Reunited, and a degree of manipulation that gives the impression that reality TV subtly.
Taylor has politely backed away from it all. She is conscious of her own image and hates that she was even mentioned. Okay.
This is not merely an instance of falling out as closest buddies, it's the disintegration of a brand behind the scenes. Because our friendship was exactly that. A brand that is rigorously managed, captured on camera, and seems completely disposable when chaos arose. And if you continue to hope for their reunion, wait till Taylor is removed from office. Something indicates that girl's going to speak a great deal.
She can't always be being used. I'm sorry. It's been like 20 years of her being used, and I don't feel that that is the true story, okay?
However, let's first discuss how Taylor Swift inadvertently found herself in 5 legal actions without filing one offense aside from seemingly being, that's all, friends with Blake Lively.
First and foremost, because it is just Taylor's modus operandi to constantly say that she's being used and she doesn't know how she got here, blah, blah, blah.
Neither did Taylor sign a contract. She made no agreements. Didn't even send a suspicious tweet.
Okay? What do you mean you showed up and the meeting was still going on? What does that mean? What is it? I showed up and the meeting was still going on. So what are you being victimized by?
She only. Did you arrive at Blake's house hang? Perhaps share some wine while out for a while. Perhaps send a text that says, I love you. And presto, she's now a dragon sister. In a legal dumpster, a possible witness. Fire.
Justin Baldoni, in his lawsuit, stipulates that Taylor Swift peer pressured him, and she's not denying that in this article. She's not saying, I didn't speak to him, I said nothing, which I would be like, oh, you just used me as an intimidation tactic.
Yes. News Nation claims that Taylor Swift has formally served with a subpoena and will be, this summer, overthrown by none other than Justin Baldwin's defense attorneys.
Baldoni said that she specifically spoke up about how much she loved the script, which implies to me that unless Taylor Swift is a liar, she read the script.
Taylor, you're correct. In 90 seconds, Swift can sell out stadiums. Now, seconds are being requested to sit in a room for a deposition because in the beginning, her best friend used her name to resemble a legitimate chess game in many ways. An insider revealed everything. News Nation Taylor feels irritated since she was introduced to this. She simply proceeded to hang out.
She is saying that she then went and heaped praise on Blake Lively's version of the opening scene. That's what his lawsuit states. This is when they were talking about that rooftop scene.
And the same is true when you go to see a buddy. You anticipate snacks, perhaps some conversation, and a few awful film failures that shouldn't be utilized as proof in disputes that overlap, pertaining to alleged slander and harassment, in violation of the agreement.
So unless Blake gave her the nudge and said, can you go in there, in which case Taylor Swift is still responsible for having peer pressured him, then there's no deniability here.
Taylor's name now is scattered like confetti among these litigation at an after-party for a Reputation tour because, and Blake, this is where things start to get heated, wasn't limited to addressing Baldwin in private. No, she loudly went public, but let's break it, not the way you think. Down.
So whenever Blake needed an excuse, it was literally like, oh, I got strep throat. The kids are sick.
Keep in mind that Blake filed a civil complaint last year. Yes, she didn't submit it on her own.
So Blake Lively didn't file this complaint herself. Her lawyer did it for her.
Now, her attorney Ezra Hudson. Not strange or unlawful in and of itself. That's how many complaints are made, however. What many people are finding surprising is the particular legal language employed in the grievance.
And instead of saying that the claims were definitely true, the lawyer said that Blake believed them to be true.
As you can see, Blake didn't say any of her claims were unquestionably accurate. She claimed to think they were accurate.
That is a legal way to avoid being accused of lying under oath.
Why does that matters, since it provides her with legal flexibility if none of it turns out to be, withstands in court, and is unbeatable. Perjury, but she never stated that it was true, but only because it was her truth. How famous people avoid going to jail and still receive headlines on the first page. But wait, it becomes more juicy.
That's the complaint that ended up being an article basically in the New York Times in the end of December. So that's where all of this started, and a lot of people thought, that was a lawsuit, but it wasn't. It was just a complaint that was sent to California Civil Rights Department.
Blake filed this in addition to, she also filed a legal gentle complaint. Declined an inquiry, that's correct. No thanks is the box she checked. The California Civil Rights Act is not something I want department to further investigate this, which is peculiar. Typically, when you're filing a grievance, you would like someone to look into things thoroughly, such as to make sure it's authentically confirm your experience.
Blake also refused an investigation. She actually chose for the CRD not to look into any of her claims. She didn't want them to look further into anything or investigate anything.
No, Blake, I'm not here. Did not want that. Instead, she want the documents were filed, and she then took that documents, immediately revealed it to the New York Times, then leave the rest to the media. Therefore, rather than undergoing genuine legal networks, she claimed react to the Complaint she didn't go through the entire procedure and gave a nationwide detail. Nothing in the newspaper mentions pursuing justice, like eschewing the proper procedure and going directly to the public opinion court.
Well, the CRD didn't send this complaint to the people that are involved. They didn't send this complaint to the Wayfarer or to Justin Baldoni. They didn't send it to anyone.
Additionally, only to illustrate how peculiar this is, the CRD, the Department of Civil Rights didn't even send Justin Baldoni the grievance or any of the individuals or Wayfarer studios Blake named because they didn't legally must because of how ambiguous and passive the grievance was, that it was never about initiating a real case it concerned, launching a headline.
It says here that the CRD didn't actually fact-check the complaint to see if it was actually true. They didn't look into anything. They didn't investigate anything.
Worth mentioning, pointing out that Blake did not sign the document. Ezra's name on the letter is Lively. Hudson, the attorney who makes it appear more akin to a strategic law move and not at all like someone sincerely attempting to contain a predator. Responsible in the meanwhile, Taylor, attempting to quietly sip a lacro, being forced to take a deposition now, since someone else chose to toss about the term dragon as if it were a legal clause.
So her follow-up text, which reads like a psycho, obviously, I'm Khaleesi, these are my dragons. She said it because you did something, okay?
And let's be honest, Taylor was called her dragon by Blake in a private message, followed by that precise wording that appears in a court document. It wasn't a coincidence, it was by Taylor, bless her, had no idea about the design. Her purpose was to serve as a human shield.
He clearly texted and said, you didn't have to do that. You didn't have to have Taylor Swift there to make me look at your edits. And Blake Lively doesn't say, oh, what are you talking about? Taylor Swift said nothing to you. Instead, she doubles and triples down by saying she's my beautiful little monster.
This is not a friendship. PR jitsu. This occurs when an image management turns become a high-contact sport. Blake is presently attempting to play. Taylor, the victim, is drawn into a conflict she didn't enroll in, and 5 cases that appear to develop additional branches each week. And as Blake meticulously creates her story for the media, Taylor seems to be furious behind the scenes.